Part 1, Introduction, When Cartoons Got Darker Than Expected. Most people think cartoons are always funny, colorful, and light-hearted. But Cartoon Network, the home of classics like Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Powerpuff Girls, and Ed, Ed and Eddie, sometimes slipped in moments that were way too dark, creepy, and even terrifying for kids. For young viewers in the USA and UK, growing up watching these shows in the late 90s and early 2000s, these moments became unforgettable nightmares. They proved that even cartoons can have a dark side. In this video, we're diving into the top 5 scariest moments in Cartoon Network shows that left kids shocked, scared, and unable to sleep at night. Part 2, Scariest Moment Number 1, Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Demon in the Mattress. No Cartoon Network list of scary moments is complete without Courage the Cowardly Dog. This show, famous for its bizarre and surreal animation, delivered some of the creepiest episodes ever seen in kids' TV. White right pointing backhand index. The episode The Demon in the Mattress is one of the scariest. Muriel orders a new mattress, but it turns out to be haunted by an evil demon. At night, she is possessed, her face twists into a terrifying demonic grin, and her voice changes into something straight out of a horror movie. The whole episode has a gothic horror vibe with distorted visuals and chilling music. For a show aimed at kids, this was shockingly disturbing, almost like watching a horror film on Cartoon Network. Fans in the USA and UK still talk about how this episode gave them nightmares, proving that Courage the Cowardly Dog was not just a cartoon, it was psychological horror disguised as children's entertainment. Part 3, Scariest Moment Number 2, The Powerpuff Girls, Him's First Appearance. Most of us remember the Powerpuff Girls as a bright and fun superhero cartoon where Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup fought colorful villains like Mojo Jojo. But one villain stood out as pure nightmare fuel, him. White right pointing backhand index. Who is him? Him is a red-skinned, devil-like creature with lobster claws, thigh-high boots, and an eerie, high-pitched voice that echoes between sweet and demonic. His design is unsettling enough, but what terrified kids the most was his psychological manipulation. Unlike other villains who just tried to fight the girls physically, him got inside their heads, feeding off fear and despair. Television. The first appearance. In the episode Octi Evil, him takes control of Bubbles' stuffed octopus toy, whispering dark thoughts into her mind. The atmosphere was chilling, the lighting turned dark, the music slowed, and him's voice went from sugary sweet to bone-chillingly deep. For kids in the USA and UK, this was terrifying because it wasn't just physical danger, this was psychological horror inside a show meant for children. Even as adults, many fans admit him is still one of the scariest Cartoon Network villains ever created. Part 4, Scariest Moment Number 3, Ed, Ed and Eddie, The Empty Cul-de-sac. Normally, Ed, Ed and Eddie was all about scams, comedy, and over-the-top slapstick humor. But one episode broke that formula in a way that creeped out fans everywhere, The Empty Cul-de-sac. White right pointing backhand index. What made it scary? In this episode, the EDS walk outside to find the cul-de-sac completely empty. No kids. No neighbors. No adults. Just silence. The animation is unnaturally still, the colors are washed out, and the lack of music creates an eerie, lifeless feeling. As the EDS wander through the neighborhood, calling out for their friends, the isolation and emptiness set in. Some fans even theorized this episode hinted at a dark fan theory, that all the kids in the cul-de-sac are actually spirits trapped in limbo. For children in the USA and UK used to the loud, colorful chaos of the show, seeing the cul-de-sac so silent and lifeless was deeply unsettling. It felt like stepping into a nightmare version of their favorite cartoon world. Part 5, Scariest Moment Number 4, Johnny Bravo, Bravo Doobadoo Haunted House. Johnny Bravo is usually a comedy full of slapstick humor and Johnny's goofy attempts at impressing women. But in the crossover episode Bravo Doobadoo, the show suddenly turned into a horror story. White right pointing backhand index. The setup. Johnny teams up with Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Incorporated gang. They enter a dark, haunted house filled with eerie shadows, creaking doors, and strange whispers. White right pointing backhand index. Why it was scary. The haunted house wasn't played only for laughs, its atmosphere was genuinely creepy, with dark hallways, sudden jump scares, and ghostly sounds. For kids in the USA and UK, who expected light-hearted comedy from Johnny Bravo, this episode was an unsettling twist into ghost story territory. Even though Scooby-Doo usually mixed comedy and horror, pairing it with Johnny Bravo made the scary moments feel way more intense. Many viewers still remember the chills of the haunted house scenes decades later. Part 6, Scariest Moment Number 5, Courage the Cowardly Dog, King Ramses' Curse. We're back to Courage the Cowardly Dog, because let's be honest, this show gave us enough nightmare fuel to last a lifetime. One of the most infamous episodes is King Ramses' curse. White right pointing backhand index the story. Eustace steals a cursed slab. Suddenly, the ghost of King Ramses appears outside the farmhouse, his face expressionless, his body unnaturally stiff, animated in an early 3D effect. He repeats the haunting phrase, "Return the slab, or suffer my curse." White right pointing backhand index why it was scary. The combination of ancient curse, creepy voice, and that uncanny 3D animation terrified kids. The eerie repetition of the line "Return the slab" became one of the most iconic and terrifying moments in Cartoon Network history. For children in the UK and USA, this episode felt more like a horror movie than a cartoon. Even adults admit the King Ramses ghost is one of the creepiest things they've ever seen on television. Part 7, Fan Reactions. Why these episodes traumatized a generation. When these episodes first aired, kids in the USA and UK weren't prepared for how terrifying they would be. Remember, Cartoon Network was mostly associated with funny, light-hearted, and colorful shows. Suddenly, these episodes introduced dark atmospheres, creepy sounds, and disturbing visuals. White right pointing backhand index common fan reactions. Nightmares. Many fans admitted online that Courage the Cowardly Dog gave them actual nightmares. Some kids even refused to watch TV alone after King Ramses' curse. Unexpected fear. Parents would often sit with kids, expecting light humor, only to find episodes that felt more like mini-horror movies. Cult following. On Reddit and YouTube, adults from the UK and US often share comments like, "I thought I imagined how scary these shows were, but re-watching as an adult, it's still creepy. King Ramses' voice still haunts me at night." Generational trauma. In a fun way, these scary episodes bonded kids together. Everyone remembers being scared, and now adults laugh about how Cartoon Network scarred us all. White right pointing backhand index why it stuck. The key reason these moments are unforgettable is because they mixed comedy with horror. You didn't expect to be scared, and that shock factor burned the scenes into memory. Part 8, Cultural Impact in the USA and UK. These episodes weren't just scary for kids, they influenced pop culture, memes, and the way cartoons are remembered today. White right pointing backhand index in the USA. Courage the Cowardly Dog became a cult classic. Adults now re-watch it on streaming platforms like HBO Max and discuss how ahead of its time it was. The episode King Ramses' Curse is frequently ranked among the scariest cartoon episodes of all time. Horror creators in America often mention shows like Courage as their first taste of horror that inspired them later. White right pointing backhand index in the UK. UK audiences also had late-night reruns, making the creepy vibes even scarier. British fans often comment that Cartoon Network shows were darker compared to UK's children's TV, like CBBC or ITV. Even now, British pop culture forums discuss these episodes as part of the shared childhood experience. White right pointing backhand index online pop culture today. Memes of Return the Slab are all over Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. YouTubers create reaction videos where adults re-watch these episodes and admit, "No wonder we were scared as kids." These moments prove that cartoons weren't just for kids, they had layers of horror, comedy, and mystery that still fascinate audiences in both the UK and USA. Part 9, Behind-the-scenes secrets of the scariest episodes. While fans were busy hiding under their blankets, the creators behind these shows had fascinating stories about how these creepy episodes were made. White right pointing backhand index Courage the Cowardly Dog, King Ramses' Curse. The 3D animation of King Ramses was revolutionary at the time, early 2000s. Most cartoons used 2D art, but this episode blended 3D, making Ramses feel eerily out of place, adding to the creepiness. John R. Dilworth, the creator, admitted that he wanted the show to feel like a mix of comedy and horror films, almost like an animated Twilight Zone. The sound design was intentional, the droning voice and low rumble background sound made it uncomfortable to listen to, almost like a horror soundtrack. White right pointing backhand index Ed N Eddy, Urban Legends episode. The creators wanted to parody scary campfire tales, but it turned out much darker than expected. The distorted colors and creepy music were inspired by classic horror movies from the 80s. Interestingly, some networks wanted to cut the episode short because they thought it was too much for kids. White right pointing backhand index Samurai Jack, The Haunted House. Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator, treated this episode like a silent horror film, minimal dialogue, eerie sound effects, and suspenseful pacing. The team studied Japanese horror films and classic ghost stories to design the haunting scenes. Many animators have said this is one of the episodes they are most proud of, because it blurred the line between kids' show and cinematic horror. White right pointing backhand index why it worked so well. Mixing unusual art styles, 3D with 2D, distorted colors. Creepy audio tricks, low background hums, distorted voices. Unexpected genre shifts, from comedy or adventure to pure horror. These behind-the-scenes choices are why these episodes still haunt viewers decades later. Part 10. Why did Cartoon Network allow such dark content? This is one of the biggest questions fans from the USA and UK still ask. Why would a kids channel allow such terrifying episodes? White right pointing backhand index reason number 1, creative freedom. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Cartoon Network gave creators more freedom than Disney or Nickelodeon. Instead of strict censorship, CN encouraged experimentation, even if it meant creeping out kids. White right pointing backhand index reason number 2, attracting older audiences. Cartoon Network wasn't just targeting kids. They wanted shows that teenagers and even adults could enjoy. Adding dark humor and horror made the cartoons feel layered and mature. White right pointing backhand index reason number 3, testing boundaries. The network was competing with Nickelodeon, Rugrats, SpongeBob, and Disney, Recess, Kim Possible. To stand out, Cartoon Network allowed riskier, edgier storytelling. And it worked. People still talk about CN episodes today because they dared to be different. White right pointing backhand index reason number 4, cultural influence. In both the USA and UK, there was already a tradition of dark children's storytelling, like Grimm's fairy tales, Goosebumps, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Cartoon Network simply carried that tradition into animation. White right pointing backhand index result. Instead of hurting the network, these White right pointing backhand index 1. Nostalgia factor. Adults who grew up with Cartoon Network now revisit these episodes on YouTube or streaming platforms. What once terrified them now feels nostalgic and fun, like revisiting a childhood haunted house. White right pointing backhand index 2. Internet culture. Scary CN episodes have become viral memes and Reddit threads. For example, the King Ramses meme, "Return the Slab," is constantly shared online, proving its timeless impact. White right pointing backhand index 3. Cinematic appreciation. As adults, fans now notice the art direction, sound design, and storytelling quality in these episodes. What seemed just creepy as kids is now respected as mini horror masterpieces in animation. White right pointing backhand index 4. Influence on modern animation. These episodes inspired modern shows like Adventure Time, Over the Garden Wall, and even parts of Rick and Morty. The blend of creepy plus funny is now a popular formula in both kids and adult animation. White right pointing backhand index conclusion of part 12. These episodes didn't just scare kids, they shaped a generation's taste in storytelling. Today, they are celebrated as dark, daring classics that made Cartoon Network stand out worldwide. Part 13, Fan Reactions, childhood trauma or unforgettable fun. Even today, fans in the USA and UK fill forums, Reddit threads, and YouTube comments talking about how these episodes affected them. Let's break down their reactions. White right pointing backhand index 1. I couldn't sleep for days. Many recall being genuinely terrified as kids. Especially episodes like King Ramses' Curse or Freaky Fred from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Some fans joke that Cartoon Network gave them free therapy sessions later in life. White right pointing backhand index 2. It made my childhood memorable. Other fans believe these creepy episodes are what made CN special. Instead of being just another safe cartoon channel, it gave kids stories they'd never forget. White right pointing backhand index 3. We watched it with siblings, friends. A common memory, kids huddled together on a couch, watching in fear but laughing after. It created shared memories that still connect them today as adults. White right pointing backhand index 4. It shaped my love for horror. Many American and British fans credit CN for their lifelong love of horror movies, thrillers, and spooky stories. These cartoons acted like a gateway into the horror genre. High voltage sign takeaway, whether it scared them or thrilled them, fans agree these episodes had a massive impact on their childhoods. Part 14. How YouTube keeps these episodes alive. Cartoon Network may have aired these episodes decades ago, but YouTube revived them for a new generation. White right pointing backhand index 1. Viral clips and compilations. Short clips of scary moments, like Return the Slab, regularly go viral on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Millions of new viewers, kids and adults, discover them daily. White right pointing backhand index 2. Reaction videos. Popular YouTubers react to scary CN episodes, mixing nostalgia with fresh commentary. These videos attract both old fans and new curious viewers. White right pointing backhand index 3. Fan theories and analyses. Entire channels are dedicated to explaining the dark symbolism behind these episodes. Example, some fans argue that Courage the Cowardly Dog wasn't just scary, it was a psychological commentary on isolation and fear. White right pointing backhand index 4. Global audience. With YouTube, these episodes are no longer just American memories. Fans in the UK, Canada, and beyond now experience and discuss the same creepy moments. White right pointing backhand index 5. Endless nostalgia loop. Every Halloween, these episodes resurface in trending playlists. Nostalgia plus spooky season equals perfect formula for viral content. High voltage sign takeaway. YouTube has turned these episodes from forgotten TV memories into evergreen viral content, ensuring Cartoon Network's Scariest Moments will live forever online. Part 15. Cultural impact of scary cartoons in the USA and UK. Cartoon Network's scariest episodes weren't just random experiments. They actually changed pop culture in powerful ways, especially in the USA and UK. White right pointing backhand index 1. Childhood legends. In America, Courage the Cowardly Dog and Ed and Eddie's creepy episodes became schoolyard legends. Kids whispered about them like ghost stories. Did you see King Ramses? Became as iconic as any playground myth. White right pointing backhand index 2. UK horror tradition. In the UK, kids were already exposed to creepy kids' tales like Doctor Who monsters, Goosebumps, and British folklore. Cartoon Network episodes blended into this tradition, creating a global community of kids who grew up both laughing and screaming. White right pointing backhand index 3. Shaping generations of creators. Many animators and filmmakers today admit they were influenced by these episodes. The blend of horror and humor inspired shows like Over the Garden Wall, Gravity Falls, and even adult shows like Rick and Morty. White right pointing backhand index 4. Halloween culture. Every October, CN reruns, and now YouTube playlists, make these episodes Halloween staples. They've become as much a part of spooky season as horror movies. High voltage sign result. Cartoon Network wasn't just making cartoons, it was shaping cultural memory for millions of kids worldwide. Part 16. Conclusion. Why we still love Cartoon Network's dark side. After decades, one question remains. Why do we still talk about these scary moments? White right pointing backhand index 1. They were bold. Cartoon Network took risks. Unlike safe, predictable cartoons, these episodes stood out by pushing boundaries. White right pointing backhand index 2. They left a mark. Even now, fans in the USA and UK vividly remember how these episodes made them feel, scared, thrilled, and excited. White right pointing backhand index 3. They grew with us. As kids, we were terrified. As adults, we admire the creativity, art style, and bravery behind these episodes. White right pointing backhand index 4. They made cartoons universal. These shows proved that cartoons weren't just for kids, they could tackle dark, complex, and unforgettable themes. High voltage sign final words. Cartoon Network's Scariest Moments became legends because they did more than entertain. They tapped into universal human emotions, fear, curiosity, and imagination. And that's why, whether you grew up in the suburbs of America or the streets of London, you'll never forget the night you first watched Courage face King Ramses, or Jack step into that haunted house. Cartoon Network dared to be dark, and that's why we still love it today.